Welcome back to Man Across New Horizons. I'm Dave Darling, and shall we see what's going on a lovely island of Fawnhollow today, where I forgot just how to speak there for a second in the third late night Animal Crossing episode in a row, but it's okay, that's just how it goes. This one amusingly not as late, could have been not as late, but new Genshin Impact patched out, and you might be like, oh, did you play it? And I didn't actually play it. It's because some of my friends, they wanted to pull the new character, and they pulled it. They pulled him. Cool. Scaramouche. The Traveller or whatever. No, the Wanderer. That sounds right. Not the Traveller. That's the main character. I had my hand up pulling a couple because just a couple on the other banner, and I've ended up with 5 new characters. So here we go. Anyway, good evening, everyone. Right now in Fawnhallow, it's 10:05 PM on Wednesday, December 7th, 2022. I have to clear my throat. Oh my god. Yeah, I don't really know what to talk about right now, to be perfectly honest. Oh, you know what? Clip Studio has a sale going on. I actually completely forgot about that. I was going to pick up Clip Studio EX because I wanted to pick it up to do animations and stuff with. I also, apparently Clip Studio has moved on to like some sort of subscription model, except for it's not really a subscription model. Like as I understand it, it's not as bad as Adobe's, but it's not like great either. You buy it, it's sort of like you buy it for once and then you get that version, but then if you want the latest updates you had to subscribe, but then once an entire year has passed and all those updates get compiled into one mega update which is pushed to the base version, you can buy an upgrade to that base version and buy it for life or something, and you only stop getting supported like for 3 years out. So it's like a weird in between of like a subscription model, which is like ugh, and a buy it for life, which is like yeah, so it's sort of like a okay. Which is, how it goes. Subscription models are like unsurprising. Like, obviously, all these Adobe products or all these like industry standard products are insanely prohibitively expensive for the individual because they're not for the individual. Let's be perfectly honest. If you've probably had it before. Like I've had it like so many times. I was like, oh, I want to try video editing, want to try digital art, that sort of thing. And the only thing I know is Adobe products. So I was like, ooh, how much does Adobe After Effects cost? £600? Never mind. Or Photoshop? Whoa, £300? Oh, it's a bit cheaper, but still, that's a bit pricey. At least this is back in my day, which it's not really back in my day. It was only probably like less than 5 years ago or something. Maybe when we really did the switch from buy it for life and subscription based. But yeah, these industry standard tools are insanely expensive. Like you'll not be surprised because they're for the industry to buy. They're selling to businesses rather than to selling to individual people. It's sort of just like a bonus if individual people buy them in the end. But they really sell it for businesses because this is the thing where if you're doing a business to stay above the law, legally you have to buy these licenses, and legally you have to buy a license for literally every single one of your employees. So that means to charge businesses have a lot more money than an individual because it's pooling a lot of resources together, surprisingly. So they can afford to charge businesses a lot more, and the businesses will have to pay it because there's no alternative. But it kind of sucks for me individual because you as an individual, so it's like, oh, I want to buy it. Well, I had to pay for business standard prices, which obviously I'm not a business, so that's not going to happen. But it's also like kind of really weird at the same time because I can't really speak for other products, but at least for Adobe products, in general, Adobe products are obviously the industry standard for basically everything. Therefore, like Photoshop is kind of the industry standard for digital art. Not that you can't do other things, like Clip Studio Paint is definitely like vying for its own place, and there's like, I forgot the other one, like Procreate, it's like kind of, it sort of depends, but usually for big business industry standard, Photoshop's the way to go, mainly because it's got like liquify tools or something, right, as I understand it. It's kind of a determining factor. But also for like video editing software, it's either you get After Effects or you get Sony Vegas. I think was like literally the only 2 options for video editing in the industry. Don't quote me on that. I don't really know. I think industry might have to use both or whatever. But it's the interesting thing with which I can't remember where I saw it, so it might actually be false, but it kind of makes sense to me in my head of Adobe. Where it's like the Adobe as a company, economically, they would prefer you to buy the product, obviously, but the business is not in a vacuum of like money alone. It's also got like it considers factors as well, like who's going to use the products, like how affordable is it for people, etc., etc. And I think Adobe probably realizes for the general person, the product being like several £100s is quite cost prohibitive, such that they don't actually mind, if you through other illicit means acquire a software. And it's not because it's like, oh, you know, they want you to rob them. It's not really the case. It's more that you wouldn't have bought it, you wouldn't have used the product anyway. Like 90% of the time, you wouldn't have used the product anyway. There's 10% of the time, if it wasn't possible to, you know, illegally obtain it, you would buy it probably. But the thing is, because 90% of the, so really they're losing out on like a tiny amount of sales, because as I say, individuals are not their business, businesses are their business. But the thing is, by you using their product, it like, and learning how to use it, you gain experience in it, and then it becomes eventually like sort of ingrained within the industry as its standard, because it's like, oh, everyone knows now how to use it now, because everyone knows that you had to use it for the industry, and thus everyone, you know, only seeks out to use this product, and thus everyone only knows how to use this one for industry, and thus they sort of like get their own sort of like software security, I suppose. When I mean like job security, software security, where basically people will only use this product because it's the only one which you can use. It's sort of like a self-fulfilling cycle, where it's sort of like, oh, businesses do it because that's what people know and it's, you know, the best product. Or, well, I mean, businesses probably start out doing it because it's the best product, and then, you know, thus it becomes industry standard. So people looking to break into that industry learn to use it. The way they learn to use it is by, you know, they had to have a product in the first place, but they can't afford to buy it in the first place. So either they had to get a job which, you know, provides it for them, or they get it through illicit means. But both ways, you know, just sort of solidify it as it's like the go-to in that industry, and thus the sort of cycle continues, where it's basically like there is no breaking out of that cycle. So you might be like, oh, what do I think about Clip Studio Paint going to a subscription-based model? Obviously, you know, I prefer it not to be a subscription-based model, and I prefer to get all these updates for free and whatnot. But, you know, I don't know really behind the scenes of like what the business is. Maybe like the financial things, maybe they're making tons of money, in which case I'd be like, wow, you know, unsurprisingly, the business goes for the most economic gain, which is, you know, a bit of an eye roll and a bit disappointing, but so be it, because that's kind of how it is. You sort of vote with your wallet in this case, or in every case, really. But on the other hand, I'm sort of just like, I don't know if I'm sort of just like, you know, between like a rock and a hard place or whatever in it, where I'm just like, at least it's not that bad. Like, at least, you know, I still can technically use version 1.0 for life, and I get it technically supported for 3 years, and then like when the next updates come out, I can just like upgrade to the next version. So it's sort of like, I guess it still kind of is subscription. Well, okay, technically it's like a unenforced subscription model, but technically it's like a really like spread out subscription model, which is not bad, you know. I'd still prefer to use this over Photoshop, you know. So I mean, actually no, technically I guess I would. I don't know, there's bits and pieces in Photoshop and Clip Studio Paint I like more or less. Like Photoshop, you know, has the lock on to like an alignment sort of automatic lock on thing, which is really nice, which is never going to be in Clip Studio Paint as I understand it, because it's like trademarked or something, which, you know, so be it. But yeah, I mean, it's not surprising that I've basically been turning to alternatives when I can, and then I'll be paying the price for conceding the price for things which make sense. Like I used to use After Effects, but now I use DaVinci Resolve, because DaVinci Resolve, at least for the free version, is free. They had DaVinci Resolve Pro, which is, you know, much more intensive, but I don't need it for that sort of thing. All I need is a simple program to basically do the most basic of video editing things. I need to be able to cut and splice things together. I need to be able to fast forward, like change the speed, playback of things, and I need to do very simple things like put captions in sometimes, or put like labels or annotations in my video editing software, which obviously you can all do in After Effects, but you can't really do in Windows Movie. Or you can kind of do it in Windows Movie Maker, but you don't really want to use Windows Movie Maker. Also, I don't think it's a thing anymore, Movie Maker. Hasn't it been replaced by like the video apps or something, which I've used it before. It's not very good. I don't like it all that much, but amusingly, it was actually quite good to make a PDF from what I recall, which is strange, but whatever. So that's how I use DaVinci Resolve. And obviously, if you're a digital artist, you have many like free alternatives or very cheap alternatives. Like if you already have an Apple product or iPad or whatever, you can use Procreate, which I think is reasonably cheap. And there's quite a few like free versions on like free drawing apps on like tablets or whatever. But you know, you've got Krita, like the open source like digital art thing, and you would be perfectly fine using that, to be honest. You know, the software doesn't really determine how good you are at art, or how good you are like at the discipline I suppose you're focusing on in the first place. It just gives you an easier medium with like some tools which help speed up a process or not, depending on how things go. So yeah, however many years ago, Adobe switched from the Buy It for Life to a subscription-based model, to much to the chagrin of basically everyone except for Adobe, I'd imagine themselves. I can't imagine there's people out there who are just like, yes, the subscription-based model is what I want. The rare exception, I suppose, of I guess you want to have it for only a certain a short amount of time, like a couple of months, and you'll never need it again. In that rare case, it's cheaper for a subscription model, and you will be like, yes, this is it for me. I guess also maybe it's better if you don't really care about the price, like it's being subsidized for you. I don't really know, but I don't manage, because then I guess like the updates is kind of like more ingrained into the system rather than having to go download the next product and buy the next product over and over and over again. But it's sort of just like, I'm not particularly convinced by that. I don't know, like, maybe it works out cheaper in the long run if you need literally every single program in the subscription, because it's like £20 a month, or maybe £40 a month. I think it's £40 a month. I think £20 a month might be just for Photoshop, which, that's probably not worth it, literally compared to like Buy It for Life. But I guess £40 a month if you needed literally all 20 of our products, it would probably be cheaper to subscribe for like however many. Hold on, let's think, because each product probably cost about 500, so it'd probably be about 10 months. So you'd basically, let's say if you used it for 10 years and only 10 years you needed every single program they gave you in the subscription, then I guess it would be cheaper, and you would get the latest version all the time. Fair enough. But even still, just like running the back of a napkin math, like 10 years is like, I don't know. I guess it kind of depends how much you upgrade, but obviously, this clearly is a choice which businesses are making because it's better money, unsurprisingly. Because if it wasn't better money, then, then I suppose they wouldn't be doing it. As shallow as that sounds, that's literally how the pricing works, and that sort of thing. At the end of the day, businesses are businesses. They're trying to make money, which is, I'm not trying to say that in defense of them. Obviously I'd still want best practices. I still want consumer friendly practices and that sort of thing. But it's sort of just I wouldn't get my hopes up with that sort of thing. And then I suppose you could follow on criticisms and being like, oh, well, you're the one buying into it in the first place, aren't you? So isn't this hypocritical of you? But it's also just sort of yeah, but I don't really have alternatives, I suppose. So and I don't really know how to, follow on from that necessarily. But yeah, Clip Studio. There's another thing I need to do actually after this, but I was considering actually recording another Cuphead, but instead I don't think I have time. I need to probably record a Cuphead on the day. Now think about it, I don't know if you heard that, I need to make the next Omori thumbnail art, because I forgot that I've recorded episode 37. It's not the most exciting episode, I'm going to be honest, so if you're watching the Omori series, you could probably skip it. Not that it's bad or anything, but it's just not much really happens in it. But I do need to do it. Sorry about that, a little bit of a pause. What was I talking about? Subscription models? Oh yeah, that's about right. Yeah, I don't really know what to say about it, I suppose, and that sort of thing. Amusingly, it's not as common in games, is it, as compared to the business software, which I guess kind of sort of shows a reflection that obviously subscription models, well, I shouldn't say obviously, but subscription models don't tend to do as well for consumers, individual consumers. Actually, is that true? I was going to say that's true, but when we have things like battle passes and that sort of thing, well, I guess in any case, the subscription-based model has to be at least affordable for the target group that you're actually aiming for in the first place, doesn't it? But yeah, I don't know, I guess, there's an unbelievable amount of comfort you get, I suppose, by actually purchasing a software and being like, oh yes, now I own this for the rest of time, Amusingly, it's actually something which is brought up a lot in worries about video games, especially for Steam, because Steam obviously is actually a service. People don't think about it. When you buy a game on Steam, technically you don't own it, not the same as you own it on itch.io, where you can actually download the game. You just own it on Steam, and then when one day Steam eventually ends, heavens know when that's going to be, when it's going to fall through, all your games are gone, which is not great, but it's sort of you're paying for the service of Steam, being able to automatically manage your games and downloads and that sort of thing, and syncing up cloud syncs, whatever, and the other software things which come tied with it, Steam Tech, etc., if you want to use that. But I guess that doesn't really have a subscription model. Now I think about it. I guess you're subscribing with your I was gonna say your life, that doesn't make sense. Oh, you're obviously not subscribing in your real life. That's a little bit melodramatic for what I was going for. But I don't know. It's not as common in video games as I suppose, apart from like battle passes and equivalent things like that. So does it really count in that regard? I guess not. Or I guess it does. Who knows? Is basically the long and short of it. But yeah, I don't know. Like, obviously, I'd rather buy things. For good, rather than subscribing to things. And really, there's no other, like, it kind of sounds like I was leading into another point, like, on the other hand, I don't really have it on the other hand, I don't really have much in favour of subscriptions, to be honest, apart from, like, everything you could do with a subscription, you could just do for, like, a buy it for life. You just have to, not make as much money from it, I suppose, in the first place, which is, quite the antithesis of what, most economic and based, ventures want to do in the first place, right? Now, again, I'm saying this all from a perspective of, like, I'm not an economist. I haven't studied, like, business or anything related financially to this sort of thing. So, I'm sort of just, like, guessing. So, really, you should honestly be taking all of what I'm saying with a grain of salt. In which case, you might be like, why do you say it then? If you don't expect it to be taken at face value. In which case, that's a fair enough point. I'm just sort of talking off, like, the top of my head. I can't really, like, control. Well, I can't control quite literally what I say, but I can't, once a conversation starts, it's sort of just like an open mic, and there is a bit of a soapbox. If you're here at Dear Downing Soapbox, you're not hopefully here for any sort of reliable source of like facts or anything. You're just here for white noise, I hope, in the first place. But yeah, I don't really have anything else to say on the subscription. I guess we'll go sell this stuff using the not the donation box, but the selling box. Does this have a name? Drop-off box, there you go. Okay, so it does have a name. Yeah, and I'm trying to think of other things which have adopted, like, a subscription-based model. Much to, like, my chagrin or whatever. I can't really think of many things, but it's mostly just sort of, like, software, that sort of thing. But it's interesting, because I don't know if that's industry standard, to have a subscription-based model for a lot of things, because, like, I have a friend who does a lot of engineering stuff, and, he talks about, like, how the software you use for engineering stuff is insanely expensive, like way more than digital art stuff. Like digital art stuff, like software would cost like a couple of hundreds, like 700 maybe at max or whatever. Like then the engineering software costs like 2,000, 3,000 or whatever, because it's so highly specific. I guess it needs to charge that much, otherwise they wouldn't make a profit. I don't really know, but anyway, so yeah, no, I suppose I count myself lucky in that regard. Yeah, I don't know if it's a standard across other industries, to be perfectly honest, but what do I know? Anyway, I'm going to round up this episode here, so if you have been watching, thank you very much. It's been Animal Crossing New Horizons. I've been Dear Darling. Any likes, comments, subscription shares are greatly appreciated. Discord, Twitter down below, and I hope we see each other again, but for now, it's our farewell. So until next time, bye-bye for now.